we're going to move into a bit of a story that I want to share with you. Every single one of you has been pivotal in the journey that we have taken for the past 20 years. But I want to make sure that we dive deeper into that journey. And even though we're going to talk about data, and as I joke with my friend Mike Kasser that we're going to nerd out a little bit, we're going to make sure that we empower you to reflect what this journey has meant to you and what this journey will mean to you over the next coming years. And so with that, let's get started in that journey while we connect some dots. But let's start with what the journey means to me. So I'm going to share some deep confessions of things that I have experienced in my journey with CPATH over the past 18 years, of the 20 that the organization has been in existence. What it means to me is that we can beat the odds. That's really what it means. Starting with the fact that Ray and I had to beat some pretty astronomical odds of ending up coinciding at the annual meeting for the American College of Clinical Pharmacology back in 2007 at the Palace Hotel in San Francisco. But even after that, we had to overcome even more astronomical odds by me staying to his keynote presentation instead of skipping the meeting and going to the heavy metal concert that was happening that day 8 blocks from the venue. But then we had to overcome even more astronomical odds by him wondering about the obscure sessions at the end of the evening where I was presenting. And for him to get hooked on what I was talking about in terms of optimizing the way we designed a very specific type of trial to determine if a drug was going to kill people because of an abnormal heart rhythm. And after 45 minutes of nerding out, as I do with my friend in his museum, which you should check out, he offered me to be part of the journey. And I said, without thinking it twice, and I hadn't even called my wife at the time, I said, sure, let's do it. But we had to overcome another set of astronomical odds because we had to clear the immigration process to the United States from Colombia. And it was thanks to this remarkable lady, you heard Mark Kelly mention her. She was the one who really made it happen for my wife and I to be able to relocate to Arizona from Colombia. And her love of horses actually helped my case. Because I've learned how to ride horses pretty much even before I learned how to walk. And we bonded over that, and that connected our lives even more meaningfully with Gabby. But then, after all those odds, we overcame the odds, and my wife and I were able to relocate to Tucson, where we've been for the past 18 years. When I joined the organization, I was employee number 12. Right now, we're 163 people and counting. And Julie will correct me on the exact numbers. And this is thanks to all of you and the support you've given us. But let's get back to you. What does this mean to you? And how can we help you reflect on how to continue the journey with us? That means that we need to ask ourselves some pretty basic Socratic questions. What on earth is it that we do at CPATH? Can we summarize that in one sentence? I'll give you one. we generate data-driven solutions. But then as Mike always tells me, okay, why would you do that? Well, because those solutions help accelerate drug development. So here's a message. We don't make the drugs, but we make sure that the drugs can move faster through the process. That's what our solutions do, accelerate drug development. But as our good friends at the Hill and at FDA always push us to think about is, yeah, okay, so what? Well, those solutions that are data-driven, that accelerate drug development, reduce cost, reduce uncertainty, and reduce timelines, so that we can live up to the promise of the people in need. That's the so what factor. Okay, so that means that in order to reflect on what the journey means to you, we need to think about the how. How do those solutions actually accelerate drug development and reduce timelines and reduce cost? Because we change paradigms, and we have changed some significant paradigms over 20 years of existence, and we're going to continue to change paradigms. And in times of uncertainty, that's what you need. Change the paradigms and think about where the opportunities lie. So, to think even deeper about this, we need to think about our data value chain. Okay, so Mike will tell me, don't put me to sleep, just get to the point. So, typically you think about the value chain journey for data going in that direction. The people that participate in research, that generate the data for the studies, that can then be put in a database to run analyses and present things to the FDA. We have changed that paradigm, and now we're thinking over 20 years for how to move the paradigm the other way. What happens if we take the data that already exist and we maximize their value by combining the data from all those different sources so that we can think about innovative solutions to help the people in need, so that Haley and Sarah and everybody else that is part of the journey can benefit. Okay, so let's think about the value components. First aspect of the value chain. It's the ability that CPAP has to integrate and standardize data. Okay, that sounds cool. So what? Well, let me tell you what we have learned and what we have experienced. When you're trying to combine data from the trials from industry, the studies from our allies in academia, Robert Brinton being one of the strongest allies in the room, together with the data from patient groups and the data from electronic health records, you find yourself in this situation. Complete babble. Every data source speaking a different language. And you cannot make head or tails of what each data source is trying to say. That was the first paradigm that we changed, because we were able to set up a process that takes all that rich information and all those data sources that speak different languages, and we put them through a process that ends up making the data speak the same language. And what do we generate with that? A beautifully unique, regulatory grade library of data that nobody else on the planet has. 20 years of journey, 722,000 individual records of people that participated in research that are in that big library, organized that way. Nobody else has that on the planet. Nobody. But we don't do that alone. We do that because of the commitment and the partnerships that we have. Okay, so we have the library. We have the data platform. And Rick, who's here with us, has developed the unique data platform. So the library is there. What do you do with a library? Go and read. So the other ability that we have is the ability to read data. And reading is a people's business. It takes human brains. Doesn't matter how much artificial intelligence you put on that, only human brains can actually read data. And I will tell you this. I have had conversations over 20 years with every single one of our staff, every single one of our partners in industry, every single one of our partners in academia. And the common denominator story is there was a time when it clicked for them, when they were able to see how they could start reading data. And that happened to me. And I will share that story with you. And it did not happen because of my medical education or because of my training in clin pharm or because of my training in epidemiology. It happened when finally I realized that me being a wannabe rock star, playing music and rocking out and living a lifestyle that was probably not the best for you, actually, what was that? That was reading a lot of dots on a paper that had a meaning. And it was only when that clicked in my head that music is just that. When it clicked that I could actually read data. No amount of medical education, epidemiology classes, in clin pharm, shifts in the night at the hospital would compare to what that meant to me. And every single person in our organization has had that click moment. Think about the fact that if you haven't had that click moment, you can have it. And you can have it as part of the journey that you can continue to take with us. So, standardizing data and then reading data. Okay, so you read the data and then what? The other component of our value chain is the ability that we have to work with data. And I was going to do a little bit of a show and tell tonight, but the prompt that I had shattered in my driveway because it was a big Lego piece. Data are like Lego bricks, and you can build anything with Lego bricks. And we have the ability to work with data and create anything with those Lego bricks. But what we create is always based on addressing the unmet needs that the people that are waiting for the treatments have. Every time we think about turning data into a solution, we think about what is the unmet need and what kind of Lego imaginative construction we end up building is because we're inspired by the voices of those in need. And that never happens in a vacuum. It always happens in collaboration. Okay. The other component is, okay, you have the tools, then what? You use the tools to inform decisions. Inform decisions that you need to make that are pivotal to transform the lives of people and transform business, the business of drug development. And I'm going to show you how we have built tools to inform decisions based on work that, thanks to Rick providing the data platform and thanks to Diane to pushing me to think even bigger all the time, I'm going to share with you the first ever quantitative drug development solution to be ever in the history of humankind be endorsed by FDA or EMA. But let's start with a series of questions. Put yourself in the shoes of Joseph in his past in industry, or Martha in his past in industry, or my past in industry. You need to come up with the design of the study that is going to demonstrate if this drug actually works. And you go, okay, so, how many people do I need? How long is this going to be? How often do I need to see them? And the classic process, the paradigm before was educated guesses. So, we inform decisions through data. This is the classic, and this is one slide that Diane pushed me to put together. We work in industry as if we had crystal balls, and everybody expects the crystal ball to materialize a solution or an answer to the trials. And I said, well, actually, we could build a crystal ball that actually works with data. And that's exactly what we did. And I'm going to walk you through an actual example that I've had to anonymize to protect the innocent. But this is like the real stuff. Now it's going to come together. Okay, so we took the data and we built a computational solution. I made it small so that you couldn't read it, because I don't want you to get distracted with the words. But remember the questions that you had to answer if you were in industry? How many people do I need? Now we have a computational tool that allows you to put whatever number. The second part, okay, how long does the trial need to be? You can plug in a number. How often do I need to see the people that participate in the trial? You can plug in a number. How am I going to think about the breakdown between men and women in the study? You can plug in a proportion. How am I going to think about how to measure people's memories? You can dial that into the model. How am I going to think about if the genetic makeup of people actually has an effect on the trial? You can plug that in. How can I think about if measuring how people's brains are functioning with imaging? You can actually dial that into the tool. And then you plug in what you know about your drug, and you can simulate countless times any permutation of design you can think of before you give the first drug to the first participant in your trial. All in the computer, and you can do that again and again and again until you find what the solution needs to look like. And this was actually used by our partners in industry to design a trial that was expected to show separation. That's the separation at the end between the red and the blue lines. That means success. If those lines don't separate, the trial fails. $800 million riding on that. With the trial running while the pandemic was happening, with lockdowns preventing people to going to the visits. So we plugged in the data that were available from the pandemic to understand what would bring the trial to its knees so that the company could adapt and prevent that from happening. And the trial showed separation, very close to what the model predicted. And that is what translated into, for the first time in a long time, disease-modifying drugs to prevent dementia from happening in people with Alzheimer's disease. And that is our undeniable impact. How we don't make the drugs, but we make sure that the drugs move through the process faster with less uncertainty. First, disease-modifying medications for Alzheimer's disease, some pretty devastating rare neurological conditions, a pretty devastating kidney disease, first new drug in tuberculosis in half a century, first combination for tuberculosis in half a century. But what Sarah mentioned and what Haley mentioned. Haley did not benefit from the first prevention drug for type 1 diabetes. But she comes to the office every day with the promise that she will leave a legacy for a generation that comes before her that can benefit. And what we do with Sarah, as she orients us in transforming the way people think about trials in Parkinson's disease. So what comes next? What comes next for the next 20 years is making sure that we keep collaborating to make personalized healthcare a reality. And that is what the journey should mean to everyone. But of course, we need to be ahead of the curve. And we were just having all kinds of conversations with Jim about artificial intelligence ideas earlier today. And we've been at this since 2017 when the FDA and the EMA, the European Medicines Agency, came to us and they said, help us understand how to use artificial intelligence in drug development. And those solutions are coming. And the inflection point is coming, and it'll be an explosion. And thanks to your support, we're going to be at the forefront of those innovations. So, what this means to you is that the value chain is a human chain. And what that means to me is that I get the opportunity to, for Rare Disease Day, go and order a zebra striped guitar and record a video that we posted and that allowed the human chain to become even more special by having Peter Frampton, thanks to Kissy, pay attention to this and sign the guitar. And he actually played a gig in DC while we were having our global conference in 2024, thanks to the human chain expanding. Because that journey means something to him. And it means the world to every single one of us. And this is a human chain that started here in Arizona. It is putting the state and this city at the forefront of innovation. And that's why we wanted to start the celebrations here, because this is where it's at. This community coming together and playing at the global stage, transforming drug development for good. So, I hope this helps you understand what this will mean to you, and I hope you only leave this room excited and inspired to continue the journey with us.